So good afternoon to all of you, and if you have found your seated, I just would like first to, of course, thank E.A.T, the organizers, Christina, Thomas, Dale, Christian, and the whole team who's made it possible, and thank you to all the participants for this extraordinary, inspiring day. Thank you to Zilla for having me here with you. And we're now going on a very different journey. We have passed through continents, spirits of continents, resilience of continents, of different places, and we're zooming in on Zilla, who's from Switzerland, and who actually even have roots here in Graubünden, in Grison. Zilla is based in Zurich. And Zilla invites us into her universe. It's a very personal universe with a work that is made of a fantastic and very pioneering way of working both with video art, video projection, together with drawings, paintings, sculptures, installation, and entire architecture that Zilla creates and opens up, and in a way invites us into her space, or the space that we can make ours, where we can connect to some of the emotions you convey, the sensations that we experience, and swing with you inside your spaces. You will see why. Zilla investigates and explores spaces of her childhood sometimes, but comes back as an adult figure, at times as a shadow, so going from a three-dimensional to a two-dimensional. We see a shadow as a sign of presence, but at the same time, it's a presence in absentia, two-dimensional. And the shadows makes us aware that we're maybe not alone, we're together. And if we, just a quick round about romantic literature, you find several references to the shadow. Some in Hans Christian Andersen, there is a tale where the shadow is starting its own life apart, and the shadow ends up becoming the dark side of the man that takes over and ruins the man's existence. You have others, but with Zilla, the shadow is a friend. The shadow is an alter ego, and your name even, Zilla, has a reference to the shadow in Hebrew. So it's a real alter ego where we enter into your species of spaces, espèce d'espace. For those of you who saw her wonderful exhibition now 3 years ago in Cours, not far from here, you would enter into a building and a universe. First you feel quite at home. You enter into known spaces, kitchen, library, corridors, staircases, stairwells, the bathroom, intimate space, and sometimes and in the end you would discover a space that opens up for a less homely, less heimliche feeling. We'll come back to that. I'll hand over to Zilla now. Zilla has prepared a film that will run throughout the talk, and so Zilla, I'll let you start and tell us about the film you made and why you made this film for us.
Thank you very much, Loa. I brought 4 different works. Most of them it's about the making of, because this is what we don't see when we go to a show. So it's important for me to explain a bit with these pictures you see here the first time. They were never shown. What happens if I try to work? Because I start with many people. I have a very good team working with me to find the way how in the end looks the artwork. So it's a kind of a blind journey I go through with my team. And of course we have to plan a lot of things. The things which are plannable, I'm planning very carefully. And then there are things happening without language, and that's also one reason why I'm working always with me as an alter ego, with me as a third person, to be an example for the figure I'm looking for. So in the back you can see now a making of, sneak in what happens for the installation I did for Dekabank in Germany, but also I did different situation you can see later on where I installed it. I play my own shadow, so therefore I have to be colorless, which is then very easy to get only the figure and not the ball and everything with it we see now. So I'm looking for a swinging shadow, and of course it's me, but also it's my shadow, because I'm playing with a very simple thing. If there is a light, there is also a shadow. And my projections are always lights, as they are, very simple, and so I do work with this shadow. Here you can see her swinging, and later on we see on what, because I wanted to have a swing which is a lamp. I worked it out with Venine in Venice, and you can see how things come together. So we produced this for 1.5 years, because in between was Corona and it was difficult to go to Italy, to Venice, to see what happens in the production. But it was very intense to bring all this together. As you can see, one step after the other, pictures coming together, but in the end it's an installation which has nothing to do with all this we see in the back now.
It is actually, obviously, the hardest is to create these installations. You will see in the end how obvious or crystal clear and very simple they are when you walk into your exhibitions and see the works. But here we witness for the first time the complexity of what it is to actually create these refined, delicate, and often installation that talks about or evokes emotions. Sometimes I would call the infra-ordinary, or in French you say the inframince, the little interstice between big emotions, but places that are ordinary, but that allows us to connect back to maybe childhood feelings, other things. Do you think that the shadow is a way for you to create or recreate or maintain or reinvent spaces that are related to emotions from the past?
Yeah, I'm remembering moments, emotions is maybe also connected to childhood, but much more intense when I grow up. I used to faint it away a lot, so it was kind of, I did not it was by accident, but actually I found out you can go in another world then, and it's also, I was listening today to all these interesting speeches about the powerness, the beyond something somewhere else, and I think in a way when I started doing art, I found out there is another way to be able to create your own world, which are handable in a way for me. And so it's never ending, always looking for new worlds, and in a way also try to bring them closer to the audience.
Do you want to tell us something about the stone way, the projection where is actually you playing the piano, as we can see?
Yes, Stoneway is, it was always the piano of my mother. So I really liked the name always, because I was thinking about it's not made out of stone, but this one it is. We did it out of concrete. And I was playing it for once. I tried to play a very complicated piece the entry of Rachmaninov, and it was only for this shadow piece, a big shadow hand playing it, and that was a very important moment to install it, because it's only shadow and next to it is stone, which is very different in material.
But you actually really trained to play the Rack 3, as people call it, and the opening, which is not obvious.
Yes, I was trying and playing a lot to do it, but yeah.
Now we move into different work, and you have the making of the Zilla gorilla, which was the space I referred to just before, the space that actually was at the end of your exhibition in Chur, where all of a sudden the Heimliche turned a little bit more unheimlich with the gorilla, the uncanny, the sense of something also perhaps less light, less sort of free and playful, and something where there's an element of grief and mourning. Maybe you can tell us a story about Zilla gorilla.
Yes, I'm very close to animals, and we were moving a lot when I was a child, so we had always dogs, and I was sure that I can talk to them. And it was very important to be under the stairs with them, with one of them, with the biggest one, but also the one was very, he was afraid of everything, actually. So these moments were very important also when I was getting older and with my kids, that there are moments of unsureness, and I really like them if you treat them well. And I kind of wanted to have the last corner in the museum in the back as a very dark corner, and even you have to go a long way through doors and doors, like on Vilat, and there is the gorilla at home under the stairs. You can see only the shadow, we will see later on. But of course, I wanted to have a gorilla which is not spectacular. He's just in a very quiet moment. And during the Corona time, I was looking at movies and at gorilla movies and knowing more about them, how they are sad if they lose one of the family. And so I was kind of try out if I can be a gorilla. And of course, I'm sure every one of us has a little Zilla gorilla in himself, because somehow we know this feeling of maybe being a little animal inside of my.
There's an element of anger. We talked about anger as a way of being resilient, or the connection with an animal that is very close to human being, but also an animal that we've seen in gorilla films like King Kong, which is both protective and threatening. What then happens? There's a soundtrack also that comes along with this work. Which gives you this sense of grief.
Yes. Actually, I did not really find out how it sounds like when a gorilla is crying. But somehow I had a feeling I maybe can know it if I just try it. So I got up very early in the morning, and it was still quiet at my home. So I was try to cry like a gorilla. So this is when we did a slow motion out of it. So this is kind of the soundtrack, which is very soft, very in the back of the museum.
And now we're going to the last installation, the Behind the Moon, a very recent one that you have shown and created, where you, Zilla, walks around the moon with your earphones, headset, sunglasses, and your wonderful Mary Quant vintage scarf in the wind. The moon is an element we find in your work from many places. The moon is a place you have gone to very early in your works and consistently quite consistently bring back into your work. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your relation to the moon?
Yes, maybe the title could be as well, "The Moon is My Friend," but the moon is also visible because he has a spot on it, and it's very many things I'm interested in, and also I have a very romantic idea of the moon, and in the work behind the moon, she is going on the dark side of the moon, which we don't see. So it's an imagination. I'm trying to give you an invitation to have an imagination of a world we don't know, of a side we don't see. So maybe I can trigger kind of a image everyone has for his own. Maybe we just look at the video and see, okay, she's going somewhere. What does it look like? And nobody can answer this question, only you and yourself. So I'm interested in also live with this openness of having no answer for this. But I really like this idea of having a backside of a picture, of a ball, of a world, of a planet, which we don't know because there is no light for us to look at.
So the planet, of course, the way you use projection in many of your work, you really also use the video projector as the source of light in the installation. That is what makes the shadow come alive. In the moon there's no shadow, but here again we're with the lampadino, where the light is created. But the moon, both in your early works and then just recently with the one you just saw, you also see you, Zilla, in the moon. Is there a little bit of conquest, or you're conquering space, or you're taking back space, an imaginary space of also being yours, not just belonging to the Petit Prince, but also a contemporary woman in space?
Yes, very early work from 1999 is The Man in the Moon, which I called like this because, of course, I was thinking about having this title, A Woman in the Moon, but because I'm playing being a man in the moon and peeing like a man, which is a drawing actually, and I'm copying this kind of, sifling, looking at falling stars and just being there and saying, okay, this is now my planet. And it's a bit about, yes, maybe also to make a little joke about this, here I am, that's why it's mine. So, and I really like this very small loop, and people just understand very well and very quick.
We can all connect, looking at the moon and imagining there is absolutely a reference. Do you, in your, in the way you make us go through, or you revisit the spaces you like, you choose them, do they have a reference to your own personal space from childhood? Is it a way of going back and revisiting, or is it a retreat? We heard about loopholes. Is it a way for you? It's a place where you go to find safety, or to be beyond powerlessness?
I think it's very important part of my work is that I build always spaces. Somehow I think I know them, but maybe I'm talking more about corners or platforms or kitchens maybe, or places people are together, working together, talk together, places which are important to be for having a secureness. And in these places, I can start to think and to work on pictures I don't know yet. So it's always going from somewhere I know it and feel comfortable to go somewhere I don't know and maybe feel uncomfortable.
And the shadow as a friend becomes the proof of of presence, of your resilience and your being in the world. Maybe we should open up for questions. Just before we do, I want to let you know that Zilla did yesterday a workshop with students from the Liceo here in Schwarz, and tomorrow, after the last talk at 12:30, there is a possibility to go and visit the outcome. Zilla did a wall drawing, a wall painting directly in the Liceo, and so there will be shuttles or students taking you there tomorrow. But it's open for questions, if there are questions.
Maybe, can I add something? Because it was really a very nice chance yesterday to work with the students. And we try something out, because I'm always talking about coming from the second dimension. I'm known as a drawer, going in the third dimension. And we did a very little, but also I think a very difficult exercise with a little mirror I gave them, and putting on the table, looking in it, and paint what you see, which is your self-portrait. And it is difficult as long as you want to, draw a portrait, your self-portrait. But when you just do what you see and you paint, you draw or you paint it, then you can see it is actually a self-portrait. And it was very important, and I was very happy because everybody was very successful, that you have this idea of getting a feeling. As long as you draw, as long as you try to do something, you can think about what you're doing. So you go in another room with your mind. And I think it was a little step, looking at you and all of you doing with me yesterday. It was a little step which maybe can be a very big step. So I was very happy with doing this exercise together.
I saw the results, and the students draw directly on the mirror. So yes. It was contours drawn directly on the mirror, and it could be an exercise for an E.A.T workshop, perhaps. But it was really quite wonderful how they captured themselves and overcame their timidity of doing self-portraits. I know we're behind schedule, but if there are no questions, we will pass the floor. But thank you, Zilla, so much for sharing.